And for more on this, we are joined by David Adelman. He's a partner at Reed Smith and also the former U.S. ambassador to Singapore. He is speaking to us from New York this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. The ambassador, the Pacific trade deal Mr. Trump quit is back on, and some are calling it a great day for progressive trade around the world. Now, how significant is this pact?
Well, the new pact is very significant. As was said at the top of your segment here, it represents about 14% of global GDP. 500 million people live in the countries, the 11 countries who have agreed to TPP 11, about $15 trillion in annual GDP, so it's a very significant trade deal. As was the case with the original TPP that was negotiated during the Obama administration. It was a larger deal, but the two deals had a very important central element in common, and that was virtually all of the customs duties and tariffs would eventually be reduced to zero, creating a very large free trade zone. About 95% of those tariff reductions are preserved in this new deal.
So some are saying that the new deal is crucial to ensuring that the remaining parties still benefit from the original TPP proposal that you just mentioned. And can the benefits of the original TPP be fully unlocked with this CPTPP?
Well, not having the largest economy in the world, the United States, as a party to the deal, of course, changes it, and in some ways, I suppose, diminishes the value. But what's important to remember, I think, is that ultimately the real direction of the negotiations that led up to and before the time the United States decided to withdraw from the deal was that it would be a step towards an eventual free trade area of the Pacific. So while the TPP11 is not as long or big of a step towards that eventual free trade area of the Pacific, it is nonetheless a step in the right direction. Maybe not quite as big a deal, but nonetheless quite valuable, especially to the 11 participating countries.
So out of the 11 participating countries, which country do you see as the biggest winner from this new deal?
Well, they're all winners. You know, that's the interesting thing about free trade agreements. Without exception, free trade agreements have always benefited all parties to these deals. They lower tariffs, they harmonize regulatory issues, and they allow for the free flow of goods and services between two countries. So I would suggest that all 11 countries stand to benefit in their own way. There are different ways of measuring it. You could say that Japan, as the third largest economy in the world, in many ways has the most to gain. But I think even the smaller economies participating, Brunei, for example, equally will benefit in its own way.
How about
at the end of the day, these countries are participating. Please.
Oh, sorry. How about other major players in the region, for example, like China?
Well, China obviously is not a party. China has its own deal with very different and some would say lower standards. And you know, the hope is, I think, that free trade agreements with high standards will cause all countries, including China, all countries in the Pacific, to raise their standards so that they can also engage in this zeroing out of tariffs and custom duties. For now, China is on the outside looking in.
And some leaders have said that there are still political sensitivities surrounding any deal of this nature. Now, do you see any further challenges ahead, or will we definitely see the signing of this deal in March this year?
Well, I'm not going to predict anything about the timing of the signing of the deal, but the parties have made a lot of progress. They've put a lot of work into this, and it's not just over the course of the last year. It's the preceding 6 or 7 years that have really brought the 11 countries to this point. I'm sure there will be issues that will come up between now and March or now and the scheduled signing, but I think this agreement in principle on the very big issues signals that this deal is very likely to happen sometime over the course of 2018.
All right, thank you very much for your time. I've been speaking to David Adelman, the partner at Reed Smith, who's also the former U.S. ambassador to Singapore.